Hello and welcome to South First. I am Anusha Ravi Sood and you're watching State of Play, a daily roundup of all things politics, policy, and human interest. How do you kill a language? By making the national education policy a tool. You don't believe me? You only need to see what is happening in the Lakshadweep Islands. When several non-Hindi speaking states like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka opposed the national education policy and its three-language mandate, Tamil Nadu for different reasons since it follows a two-language policy, and states like Karnataka for a different reason that the NEP is nothing but a means to impose Hindi on non-Hindi speaking states. Several people, especially leaders of the BJP, defended the NEP, insisting that other political parties were simply being rabble-rousers. But what is happening in Lakshadweep will tell you exactly why these states have been opposing the NEP and its three-language mandate. The people of Lakshadweep Islands are entirely up in arms against the national education policy and the way it is being implemented in the islands. Away from the mainland, a lot of us barely ever give a thought about what is happening in islands like Lakshadweep or Andaman Nicobar. Andaman Nicobar is a different story altogether, but here in Lakshadweep, the latest raging controversy is about a policy that is being implemented across all schools. In these set of islands, Hindi is now pushing native languages of Mahal and Arabic out of schools. Native languages as well as a language like Arabic, which both have cultural and religious significance, have deep roots for the island's entire cultural and religious identity, are being pushed out of schools because the administrator there, an appointee of the Narendra Modi government, has deemed it fit that students in schools should learn Hindi over their native languages. Article 29 of the Indian Constitution guarantees every citizen, even those of linguistic minorities, to protect and practice their language, script, culture. Article 350A of the Indian Constitution mandates that education be given to children in their mother tongues, in their native languages. On paper, the National Education Policy 2020, NEP 2020, speaks about how it highlights multilingual education system. It wants to improve multilingualism. It wants to provide education in multiple languages, and hence a three-language policy has been recommended, languages of the student's choice. But it is never the student's choice, and that is what is happening in Lakshadweep. Under Lakshadweep Administrator Praful Koda Patel, a man from Gujarat who's seen as an aide of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a close confidant of leaders of the BJP, and clearly an appointee of the union government, has always been at crossroads with the culture and the religious identity. And this time around, this is a linguistic protest by people of the islands against an order that threatens their very native language, their most rooted identity. An order, a copy of which South First has. We have a detailed copy that my colleague Sri Lakshmi Soman has put together, speaking to several people from Lakshadweep Island, multiple islands of Lakshadweep, on this very issue. In that copy, we also have attached this particular order. This order, signed by Director of Education Padmakar Ram Tripathi, completely sidelines Arabic and Mahal, two languages that are not just academic subjects but hold deep cultural and religious relevance in Lakshadweep. There are two different patterns that this particular order has suggested. One is the Kerala school pattern, which involves Malayalam medium schools where R1 is Malayalam, R2 is English, R3 is Hindi, and in English medium schools, which is the CBSE pattern, R1 will be English, R2 Malayalam, and R3 Hindi. If this is not imposing an outside language instead of a native language education, what else do you deem this? If this is not imposition, what else is? In fact, people of Lakshadweep are only asking for a small amendment to this entire policy order. Here is what people of Lakshadweep have proposed. They are looking at a more flexible model that will allow students and parents to choose the language that they want to study in. For Kerala pattern schools, people of Lakshadweep have suggested R1 as Malayalam or Mahal, which is a regional language in an island of Minikol, R2 as English, and R3 as Hindi or Arabic. And for CBSE school pattern, people there have suggested R1 as English, R2 as Malayalam or Mahal, and R3 as Hindi or Arabic. Even here, the people of Lakshadweep are not insisting that they will not study Hindi at all. They are simply asking that Hindi be made an option instead of a mandate. The people there, several activists cutting across political lines, representatives at the smallest unit, from panchayat councils to leaders who are representing the people of Lakshadweep at various levels in the government, are concerned that this one size fits all approach of the Lakshadweep administration is threatening their native languages, their local identity. They argue that this feels like an attempt at cultural erasure, and one cannot really take an issue with what they are saying, because unless the government assures them that their cultural identities will be protected without imposing a language that is not of their soil, this feeling is only going to grow. Lakshadweep, as many of you know or might not know, is a group of several islands. Take, for example, the case of Minicoy, a small island that is quite a bit of a distance from other islands in Lakshadweep. The main language in Minicoy is Mahal, and it is a dialect. It sounds similar to the native language of Maldives, because this particular island of Minicoy is geographically has proximity to Maldives, and it also has cultural exchange with Maldives. And because of that, the language also has similarities to the native language of Maldives. Going by its cultural heritage roots, Minicoy can be seen as a micro-linguistic community, which means number of people who speak the native language, their Mahal, is very small. That doesn't mean they don't have the right to conserve, protect their language. My colleague Sri Lakshmi spoke to Hasan Bodumuka, who is a former chief councillor of Lakshadweep in Minicoy, and he speaks about how their native language has been pushed to the brink little by little. For example, earlier there were 6 Mahal language teachers in Minicoy. Now there are only 3. They once had 9 printing presses to produce Mahal language textbooks on the island, and today all of them are shut down. There's only one press in Kavaratti that prints Mahal textbooks. For years now, teachers in Minicoy have been insisting that they need updated books. They've also pointed to how the quality of books of Mahal language given to students are of very poor quality. The printing quality is poor, the words are misspelled. But instead of addressing those concerns and putting an effort to conserve a micro-linguistic community's linguistic identity, the government is pushing this language out of schools by making Hindi, Malayalam, English the mandatory sequence of subjects. As for the rest of the islands of Lakshadweep, the primary language is Jesseri, or otherwise for a common person known as the Dweep Bhasha. It is a dialect of Malayalam but has heavy influence of Tamil and Arabic. Jesseri is spoken across 9 islands of Lakshadweep, excluding Minicoy, where Mahal is spoken predominantly. But Jesseri also has different dialects that are unique to each of these islands where the language is spoken. Such rich cultural linguistic heritage, and it is honestly really sad the government is looking to push these languages out of schools. As far as the other languages are concerned, Malayalam is marked as the official mother tongue of several islands in Lakshadweep, but Arabic holds an extremely significant cultural and religious relevance because of Islam's historical spread via Arab traders and Mapila community of Malabar. Several linguistic scholars from this region, as well as in Kerala, have raised questions about NEP excluding Arabic as a language from its foreign languages list for students to study as well. It makes economic sense to provide Arabic as a language option for students in the Lakshadweep or Kerala community, considering the number of jobs that people from this region take up in the Gulf countries, where Arabic and the knowledge of Arabic is going to help students. Instead of including that, in the foreign languages category under the NEP, the government is now looking to even remove its study, the language altogether from schools by making Hindi mandatory. It is not like people of Lakshadweep do not know how to speak Hindi. In fact, several locals that we spoke to insist how, because they are primarily a fisher person community or a fisher folk community, they have been trading for centuries. They have business in several parts of India, including Mumbai. Several of their forefathers have learned Hindi. The children there speak Hindi. That's pretty much how the administrator of Lakshadweep, Mr. Patel, is able to even communicate during addresses, public addresses or school addresses that he makes. People there do understand Hindi. But the point here is not about whether they know Hindi and hence they should study Hindi. The point here is, what is it that we are going to do to protect these micro-linguistic groups or micro-linguistic communities? How are we going to conserve them if, as a policy matter, we impose a language that is not their own? When you look at the context of what is happening in Lakshadweep, it doesn't seem too far-fetched what Tamil Nadu has or says as its concerns against NEP. The imposition of one language always comes at the cost of another native language. The argument is very simple. Why should people who have been speaking their language, wanting to study their language that has a rich legacy of centuries, eons of legacy, lose out to a language that is barely 250, 300 years old? Language is primarily what makes the identity of a person in a diverse country like India. Our collective effort should be to preserve as many languages as we can and stop them from reaching the brink of extinction. Instead, we are actively introducing policies that are leading to cultural erasure. Until I come back to you with yet another episode of State of Play, do stay tuned to South First. Thank you so much for watching.